In medicine's long history, there have been a number of fascinating discoveries and advances, but there are also a number of misconceptions, some of which have disastrous consequences. Due to limited medical knowledge, people desperately tried anything that seemed like a cure. Now let's take a closer look at some of these historical medical myths. A dangerous myth that sexual intercourse with a virion can cure syphilis was prevalent in the 18th century. The exact origins of this myth aren't clear, but a few things may have contributed. It might have been thought that virginity, associated with purity in Christianity, had healing powers that could counter the disease. The prevailing medical theory, humorism, of the time focused on balancing bodily fluids. Virgins may have been thought to have a more balanced humoral state that could fight off disease. However, there were several devastating effects of this misconception, since men with syphilis now believed that they could be cured through sexual contact with virions, which now leading to their risky behavior. Infected men continued to engage in sexual activity, spreading syphilis across Europe. In some extreme cases, the myth led to violence against young girls and women as desperate men looked for virgin cures. Young girls and women were put at risk of sexual assault because of this misconception. This myth delayed proper treatment for syphilis, which led to severe health complications, including blindness, dementia, and even death. With advancements in medicine, this misconception slowly faded away. As the Wassermann blood test was developed in 1906, it allowed an accurate diagnosis of syphilis, and penicillin was discovered in the 1920s, exposing the virgin cure myth. It's still important to dispel these myths and promote safe sexual practices through sex education. In the days before penicillin, mercury was the primary treatment for syphilis. Despite offering relief, it had severe side effects. Mercury was one of the few known substances that had some effect on syphilis before the 20th century. It focuses on balancing bodily fluids according to the prevailing medical theory of the time. In those with syphilis, mercury was thought to balance the blood. Mercury was injected in different ways, including ointments, rub on the skin for localized relief. Taking pills is highly toxic and can lead to mercury poisoning. Fumigation, inhaling mercury vapors. Mercury was partially effective in easing some syphilis symptoms, but not a cure. Treatment often didn't work. Mercury is highly toxic, and treatments often caused worse problems than the disease, such as damage to the kidneys, brain damage, tremors, memory loss, loss of hair, loss of teeth. Severe cases can lead to death. Mercury remained the primary treatment for centuries despite its severe side effects. Many people with syphilis were willing to risk their lives to get better. In search of a better cure, in the 1920s, this relentless pursuit led to the discovery of penicillin, which revolutionized syphilis treatment. The story of mercury and syphilis shows the importance of modern medicine. Due to scientific advances in the field of medicine, we now have effective and safe treatments for syphilis. There was a controversial use of vibrators for the treatment of hysteria in the 19th century, a catch-all diagnosis. Hysteria refers to a variety of female ailments, often psychological in nature. Anxiety, depression, and fainting are all possible. Due to limited medical knowledge, doctors couldn't diagnose and treat these conditions. The early vibrators were called electrical stimulators. The vibrators were gaining popularity. Doctors thought they could cure hysteria by stimulating the nervous system and pelvic organs. Unfortunately, vibrators were often exploited for treating hysteria. Under the guise of treatment, some doctors used them. Hysteria was thought to come from repressed female sexuality. Vibrators were used to induce orgasms and relieve symptoms. There was no scientific evidence for this practice, and it didn't solve the underlying problems. It might be traumatizing for women and reinforce negative views of female sexuality because of its exploitative nature. It didn't address the root causes of hysteria and likely didn't relieve symptoms in many cases. As medical knowledge about female health and psychology improved, the concept of hysteria was gradually abandoned. Treatments became more targeted and effective. Vibrators may have contributed to positive developments in the 19th century despite their exploitative nature. It sparked discussions about female sexuality, paving the way for a more open and scientific approach to women's health issues in the 20th century. There's no doubt that the Museum of Sex presents this historical practice within a broader context. highlighting its exploitative nature and lack of scientific foundation. Today, vibrators are recognized as a tool for sexual pleasure and self-exploration for all genders. However, it's crucial to distinguish their recreational use from any misguided medical applications of the past. Asthma was believed to be cured by smoking in the 19th century because nicotine, a component of tobacco, calms asthma symptoms like shortness of breath and chest tightness. Patients and even doctors might have grabbed at anything that seemed to offer relief if they didn't have a clear understanding of asthma. Smoking causes bronchodilation, which is a relaxing of the airways. There is a possibility that this could have been mistaken for a genuine improvement in breathing. It's possible that asthmatics delayed getting proper medical care because they thought smoking was a cure. Smoking irritates the airways, causing inflammation and lung tissue damage. Lung capacity is reduced and asthma symptoms are worsened. Asthmatics are at risk of getting addicted to tobacco, which creates another health burden. Smoking damages blood vessels and increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes, further compromising your health. During the 20th century, medical knowledge of asthma improved, revealing smoking's harmful effects. Smoking was recognized by the medical community as a major cause of respiratory problems, including asthma, by the mid-20th century. There are a number of treatments available today for asthma, including medications that reduce inflammation and constriction of the airways. Asthmatics can benefit greatly from these evidence-based approaches since they offer significant relief and improved quality of life. The story of smoking as a cause of asthma illustrates the importance of evidence-based medicine in the treatment of asthma. For identifying safe and effective treatments, scientific research is crucial, even though some historical practices seem logical. The 19th century saw a surprising rise in cocaine use, including as a tonic and for treating toothaches. This short-lived medical trend has interesting origins and consequences. In the 18th century, cocaine was isolated from the coca plant in South America. Indigenous populations used it mostly for social and ceremonial purposes. Coca leaves are misunderstood for their numbing and stimulating effects. Because of this, its potential medicinal uses were misunderstood. During the 19th century, patent medicines boomed, often with exaggerated claims and limited scientific backing. There were lots of tonics and elixirs made with cocaine. Cocaine's numbing properties led some to think it could relieve toothaches. There was topical application and injection, but it was only temporary. Cocaine's stimulating effects were seen as a sign of good health. In a similar way to smoking misconceptions, it was touted as a cure for fatigue, depression, and even asthma. This highly addictive stimulant led to a significant increase in addiction rates because of its widespread use. However, cocaine use can cause serious health problems like heart attacks, strokes, seizures, and respiratory problems. Addiction to cocaine can cause anxiety, paranoia, and psychosis. By the early 20th century, the use of cocaine as a medicine was waning as scientific understanding grew. To control its distribution, stricter regulations were put in place. Cocaine's story shows the importance of evidence-based medicine. Although temporary relief or a stimulating effect of the drug might appear to be promising, a deeper understanding of the drug's properties reveals its dangers in the long run. As of today, cocaine is classified as a Schedule II controlled substance in the United States, meaning that it carries a high risk of abuse and addiction. Medical research and certain anesthetic procedures are the only legal uses of this substance. Throughout history, bloodletting has dominated medical practice. Bloodletting, the blood removal inpatient. For centuries, humorism ruled medicine, claiming that health depends on 4 bodily fluids: blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. Illness was thought to be an imbalance of these fluids. Many ailments are thought to be caused by excess blood. Bloodletting gets rid of it. The practice of bloodletting dates back to ancient civilizations like Egypt and Greece. Through generations, it became deeply ingrained in medicine. In the 19th century, bloodletting was used for headaches, fevers, mental illness, even childbirth, despite limited scientific understanding. The rise of medical equipment made bloodletting faster and more efficient, contributing to its overuse. Bloodletting became a status symbol in some social circles, with wealthier people undergoing the procedure more often, regardless of need. Blood removal weakened patients, making them more prone to infections and less able to fight illnesses. The rise of scientific medicine in the 19th century challenged humorism. There are dangers to excessive bloodletting, according to studies. With advancements in microbiology and new medications, more targeted and effective treatments were developed, leading to a decline in bloodletting. Although bloodletting is a thing of the past, its historical dominance reminds us of the constant evolution of medical knowledge. In the late 19th century, tapeworm diet pills became popular as societal norms around weight shifted. There weren't a lot of safe and effective options. Tapeworms, parasitic flatworms in the intestines, can absorb nutrients, causing weight loss. Tapeworm eggs were made into diet pills because of this misconception. Tapeworm infestations may have been misinterpreted as weight loss because of their laxative effects. Fat might have been mistakenly thought to be eliminated by the worms. The cure was easily available on mail order and in pharmacies, capitalizing on people's desperation for quick weight loss. Tapeworms don't target fat for absorption, so they don't work for weight loss. Mostly they eat food, which could lead to malnutrition. A tapeworm infection can cause nausea, diarrhea, abdominal pain, and vitamin deficiencies. They can even migrate to other organs, causing serious problems. Having a parasite inside you can cause significant anxiety and stress. Modern medicine and nutrition have made it easier to achieve healthy weight management than ever. Electricity was a hot topic in the early 20th century. Electric belts are touted as cure-alls for a variety of ailments. Electricity has been used for medical purposes more and more since the 18th and 19th centuries. The belief that electricity could cure diseases was based on limited scientific understanding. Electric belt manufacturers capitalized on the public's fascination with electricity. Their ads promised relief from everything from indigestion to rheumatism and even sexual dysfunction. People liked the idea of a belt that provided a cure-all for various ailments in an era when treatment options were limited. What's so shocking and ineffective about the electric belt? Typically, electric belts consist of a belt with electrodes that deliver low-level electric currents to the body. Users may have experienced temporary pain relief due to the placebo effect, rather than psychological effects. There was no scientific evidence that electric belts cured diseases. They usually provided only mild tingling. As scientific knowledge of electricity and the human body grew, electric belt claims became increasingly skeptic. Electric belts gradually lost favour due to lack of evidence and limited regulation. Treatments that are safer and more effective have further rendered electric belts obsolete. Modern medicine uses electrical stimulation therapy instead of electric belts. Chronic pain can be managed with low-level electrical stimulation. Injuries can be treated with electrical stimulation for muscle recovery. Certain neurological conditions may be treated with electrical stimulation therapies, but with careful clinical oversight. Finally, an electric belt illustrates the fascinating, yet sometimes misguided path healthcare can take. We can appreciate modern medicine and evidence-based healthcare practices by understanding these medical myths. While history offers a chuckle, modern medicine relies on evidence, not smoke and mirrors. Stay healthy.